So, I wanted to make a video where I dive a little bit deeper into why I think it's so important to have compassion for yourself. It sounds really easy for me to say, and if you're following me on Twitter or Instagram, you probably get a fair share of posts from me about compassion. I think that it's something that's really manifested in my life because I traditionally did not have a encouraging relationship with myself. It was more a matter of these are my goals, so you have to do this and you have to do that. And I felt more like a cruel taskmaster than I did someone who was actually a good friend to herself. I write a letter to myself at the end of each year for the following year, and I write all these things that I want for myself in the next year. As part of a tradition that my husband and I started a few years ago. We also write letters to each other. And in the letter from last year, it said that at the beginning of this year, I feel like I am best friends with myself, and I hope that you've continued that journey. And that just floored me because I didn't realize how far I had come at the beginning of this past year. So I want you to know that it's impossible for me to stand here and encourage compassion for you without having internalized that for myself. So, a little bit about my journey. I grew up in South Central LA, and I had an amazing family that has always nurtured my potential and believed in me and really challenged me to dream big. And so I never felt like I was constrained or limited. At the same time, I knew how hard I had to work if I wanted to make it to the places that I envisioned for myself and to reach my goals. And so I definitely had this feeling from very young of, you can't mess this up. You just feel like, you've got one shot to get this right. And so I was always extremely studious, extremely driven. And I think that for a long time that served me. It helped me be aggressive in applying to programs. It helped me to persevere when things were challenging. But you get to a point in your narrative where that doesn't serve you anymore. And I went to Stanford when I was 16 years old. I had spent summers on various college campuses. Starting with the eighth grade, I'd gone to UCLA, Purdue, University of Michigan, University of Iowa, Cornell University, not because I necessarily had a lot of money to do that. It started out with a packet of programs that my mom and I got when I finished a summer program at UCLA. And we looked at this 40-page packet. We looked at all the different programs, and I just started writing letters to every single program I was interested in. And if they cost money, then I was very open with them about what we could and could not afford. And there was one program that actually cost $5,000, and there was a $50 application fee. And I hounded my mom for the longest time. I said, if you will pay this application fee, I will get a scholarship. And I just kept telling my mom and dad, if you pay for this, I will get a scholarship. And I think eventually they got worn down. So they paid for the application fee, and I got a full scholarship to go to the program. So I want you to know that when I entered college, I was familiar with the environment. This wasn't a matter of, I'm not sure what to do to be successful. I had had a dream of being a doctor since I was 5 years old. And so I had an expectation of myself that I would just do what was required of me and I would do well, point blank. And so here I am, not unfamiliar with the college setting, but here with a totally new set of responsibilities where I had started doing sports. I had done drill and cheer in high school, and one of my former friends from high school who's at Stanford encouraged me to join the rowing team. So here I am now doing sports and taking chemistry. And there were many days where I was supposed to go from practice to class, and instead I go from practice to breakfast because I wanted to sit and hang out with my friends. And I didn't take the content seriously. Why is this relevant to compassion? I wasn't asking myself critical questions like, do you enjoy what you're learning? Are you taking this amazing privilege of being at this university seriously, in that you are dedicating yourself to growth in amazing new ways and exposing yourself. I was always very willing to expose myself to different extracurricular activities, but I was so rigid when it came to my studies. And so I feel like I suffered academically that first year so much because I wasn't being real with myself. I didn't want to go to tutoring and get the help that I needed because I don't know if you would call it a sense of pride or my ego, but I had this narrative of just figuring things out. And I couldn't admit to myself or anybody else that I was struggling to understand the content. And so I really had a hard time coming to terms with the idea of, do you really want to be a doctor? And I remember shadowing someone. I remember reading books about what doctors did and just realizing this isn't your passion. You've always loved the idea, but the actual work is not your passion. And so I share that with you because for years after that, even as I tried different majors and I ended up falling in love with first the major of cultural and social anthropology, which exposed me to being able to look at cultural and social factors and how they shape the health of Black women, and later falling in love with the field of public health and really becoming excited about prevention. It took me years to reckon with this idea of I thought I'd failed myself. I thought I'd failed my community because I wanted to come back to South Central as a doctor. I wanted to be bilingual. I wanted to really help my people. And I remember my mom at the time being so understanding. She's like, I want you to do what makes you happy. You will find a job. Don't worry about it. God bless her, because I ended up being, like I said, a cultural and social anthropology major. And my senior year, I was finishing up a 4-year internship with Procter & Gamble. I had been working with them since high school. I had a job offer to go into pharmaceutical sales. And I walked away from the offer, not because the organization hadn't been amazing to me and exposed me to so many wonderful things, but because I knew it wasn't really my passion. And I went into public health with this feeling of, girl, you better make it. Because I still hadn't learned this lesson of having compassion for myself and allowing myself to dream and to explore and to change course. And this is something that followed me for years. And so that's just the start of my story, which I will talk about more in subsequent videos, but I want to keep this first one short. I want to give you a setup so that you can understand the context for why I think compassion is so important for us when we're dealing with personal and professional development challenges. If you can't look at what you're going through with a sense of curiosity and look at other people's experiences and understand that you're not alone in how you feel, you're not alone in what you're going through, and allowing yourself to take the actions that will allow you to have a joyful life, I just think life is so much harder. So, like I said, please tune in for more videos. I will share more of my journey, but this is just the beginning of my story of the long road to